This is Watch Your Style. Today's video is going to be a bit more of an instructional how-to video. I got a lot of questions about this, and it's actually something I would like to share with you guys, and it's how to properly set the date and time on an AP. So keep in mind that on the chrono versions, it doesn't happen as often than it does on the offshores, but overall, AP is known for this. Now let me see how I can properly explain this without you guys freaking out on me and thinking that Audemars has a poor product. It's just very delicate, man. It's almost like how Rolex is more like a Mercedes or a BMW, very strong and tough, or like a Porsche. Whereas Audemars is almost kind of like a Ferrari, a little bit more delicate. You know, they got a little bit more finicky with the things. Now, where it becomes a problem mostly that I've noticed is the crown position. The thing about AP is that what actually holds the crown into the movement is a little small adjustment screw. That little small retaining screw is actually like a watchmaker's worst nightmare because it's such a small little screw and it's tightened down with a screwdriver. No watchmaker wants to overly torque that screw and strip it straight into the movement. As opposed to Rolex that actually has a spring action pin that holds the crown in. So what happens is a lot of times when people go to manipulate the crown on an AP, they kind of go a little bit too tough with it and they end up with the crown completely out in their hand. It sucks to say, but it happens. It's not a normal thing, but it can happen. Again, it's more of a delicate product. So you want to keep in mind that if the crown ever completely comes out on your AP, do not try to jam it back in. At this point, you're going to have to take it to the person that sold it to you or straight to AP. Because a lot of times where you can cause the damage is trying to jam this crown right back in. That's where it becomes a problem. Okay, so let me go over with you the way that I set the date and time on AP. The first thing is obviously if you haven't worn the watch in a while, you need to wind it. So when you open and unscrew the crown, it's gonna pop out to the first position. Here, I like to turn it 10 times. Not 10 full turns, I don't count it. Pretty much every time my thumb goes up, that's one. So I do 10 of those. With 10 of those, that should be enough to get the movement wound up and get it going. So the problem here is the date. I can't tell you how many times people try to set the date on these modular movements on the chronos, and they try to set the date of their watch when the hour hand is between 11 and 1 o'clock. That becomes the problem because that's when the movement is actually getting ready to switch the date on the 24-hour cycle. So to avoid that, to completely avoid these problems, because people break these watches all the time because of that, I like to first set the time to 6 o'clock. At 6 o'clock, you're never gonna have this problem. So at 6 o'clock now, you are free to go ahead and spin the date wheel to whatever the current date is. Once you have selected the right date, then pop it right back out, set your time, and now you're done. Now you can freely just close the crown very slow. Remember guys, anything in watches, if it feels forced, it's probably incorrect. So if you ever go to screw your crown back and it gets tight, don't force it. Back it back up and do it again. It should screw all the way in freely and smoothly till you're done. Keep that in mind, man. I can't tell you how many times people sit there and try to change the date while it's on the changing cycle, and it's almost like the date starts skipping. What you're doing is you're damaging the movement right there at that moment. Also, keep in mind what I was telling you about the crown. Crown is very delicate, so you can't yank it on an AP like you can on a Rolex. It's a little bit more delicate. So remember, when setting the date and time on the AP, follow the instructions I gave you. And don't forget to be delicate. They're delicate watches. I mean, they're meant to be used, but just be a little bit more delicate. They're not as tough as, for example, your Rolex Submariner. And if you like this video, please like and share. Also, subscribe to our channel. My name is Eric. Watch your style.